The corners were always the safest places. Silra had learned that long ago when her family first arrived at the station. Corners meant you could see everything while staying out of everyone's way. Right now, she sat in her favorite corner of the observation deck, watching the stars drift by through the enormous windows. Her scales shifted to a dull gray color. They always did that when she felt sad. Mother said it was a gift that dragons could show their feelings through their scales, but Silra thought it was more like a curse. Everyone could see exactly how lonely she was. Across the deck, a group of Centaurian children played some kind of chasing game. Their laughter echoed off the metal walls. Silra pulled her knees closer to her chest and watched them. She had tried approaching them once, 3 months ago when her family first moved here. The Centaurian mother had pulled her children away so fast that one of them tripped and fell. A Vrindali teacher walked past, leading a line of small students toward the educational wing. When the teacher noticed Silra sitting there, she quickly hurried her students along, whispering something Silra couldn't quite hear. But she had heard similar whispers before. Dangerous. Unpredictable. Keep away from the dragon. Silra wasn't dangerous. She was only 7 years old. Well, 7 in human years. In dragon years, she was still considered a hatchling. But none of that mattered to the other families on Harmony. 7. They saw her sharp claws, her pointed teeth, and the small wisps of smoke that sometimes escaped her nostrils when she breathed. They saw a threat. Her parents were important diplomats, always busy in meetings with station officials and representatives from a dozen different species. They loved her, she knew that. But they were gone most days, leaving her with educational programs and holographic tutors. Learning was fine, but it wasn't the same as having someone to talk to, someone to play with. The recreational period was almost over. Soon the automated voice would announce that all children needed to return to their family quarters or designated areas. Silra would go back to her room, eat dinner alone, and study her lessons until sleep time. Tomorrow would be the same, and the day after that, and the day after that. She was about to leave when the deck doors slid open. A group of newcomers entered, their voices mixing with the hum of the station's air systems. Silra recognized the uniforms. Research Division. New families being assigned to Harmony. There were several adults and a few children. Most of them were humans, which was unusual. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, and there weren't many of them on the station yet. Silra had seen a few adults, but never any human children. One of the human children, a small girl with messy brown hair, immediately broke away from her parents. She ran to the observation window and pressed her face against it, staring at the stars with wide eyes. Her parents called after her, but she was too excited to listen. The girl turned around, scanning the observation deck with curious eyes. Her gaze landed on Silra, sitting in the corner. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Silra waited for the girl to turn away, to run back to her parents, to show the same fear everyone else did. But the girl didn't run. She tilted her head to one side, studying Silra like she was something interesting rather than something scary. Then she started walking toward the corner. Silra's scales flickered between gray and yellow, confusion mixing with surprise. No one ever approached her. No one. The girl stopped a few feet away and pointed at the holographic display Silra had been watching. It showed various Earth animals in their natural habitats. Silra liked watching them. Earth seemed so different from the cold metal of the station. "Are those your favorite animals?" the girl asked. Her voice was friendly, like she was talking to any other child. Silra opened her mouth, but no words came out. She had gone so long without talking to anyone her own age that she had almost forgotten how. The girl didn't seem bothered by the silence. She sat down right next to Silra, close enough that their arms almost touched. Silra held very still, afraid any movement might scare the girl away. "I'm Lucy," the girl said, still looking at the holographic animals. "We just got here. My mom and dad are going to work in the biology labs." "What's your name?" "Silra," she whispered. Her voice came out rough from not using it much. "That's a pretty name," Lucy said, smiling. "Do you live here? On the station?" Silra nodded. 3 months. "Do you like the animals?" "I love animals. We had a dog back on Earth, but we couldn't bring him here. His name was Biscuit because he was brown and kind of round. Lucy giggled at the memory. Before Silra could respond, a woman's voice called out, "Lucy, time to go, sweetie. We need to finish the registration process." Lucy jumped up, but she was still smiling. She waved at Silra with her whole arm, energetic and bright. "I'll see you tomorrow. We live here now, so we'll probably see each other lots." Then she ran back to her parents, talking excitedly about the stars and the station and everything she wanted to explore. Silra sat very still in her corner, watching Lucy leave. Her scales had changed color without her noticing. They were flickering with soft gold, the color that Mother said meant hope. She didn't believe Lucy would come back tomorrow. People said things like that all the time, but never meant them. Still, as Silra walked back to her family quarters that evening, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She wanted tomorrow to come. Silra woke up earlier than usual. She told herself it didn't mean anything. Lucy probably wouldn't come to the observation deck. Human children were probably just as scared of dragons as everyone else. Yesterday had been a fluke, a moment of curiosity that would fade once Lucy's parents explained the dangers. Still, after breakfast, Silra found herself walking toward the observation deck instead of the educational wing. Just to watch the stars, she told herself. Not to wait for anyone. The deck was mostly empty this early. A few maintenance workers checked systems in the far corner, but otherwise Silra had the place to herself. She sat in her usual spot and pulled up the Earth Animals hologram again. The elephants were her favorites. They were big and strong, but also gentle with their babies. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. Silra's scales gradually turned gray again. Of course Lucy wasn't coming. Why would she? Then the doors slid open and Lucy bounced through them, a small backpack slung over her shoulder. She looked around the deck, spotted Silra, and her face lit up with a huge smile. The Silra's scales flickered so fast between colors that they looked almost white. Shock! Complete and total shock. Lucy ran over and dropped her backpack on the floor with a thud. I told my mom I want to come here before lessons started. She said okay as long as I don't bother anyone. Are you bothered? I hope not, because I brought my favorite things to show you. Several other parents entered the deck with their children for morning recreation period. When they saw Lucy sitting next to Silra, they quickly guided their children to the opposite side of the room. One Paulian mother pulled her son back so hard he yelped in surprise. Lucy either didn't notice or didn't care. She was busy unzipping her backpack and pulling out various objects. Small toys, a few books, and a container of what looked like colorful building blocks. "Do you like puzzles?" Lucy asked, dumping the blocks onto the floor between them. "These are magnetic. You can build anything. My dad got them for me before we left Earth." Silra stared at the blocks. She had educational puzzles in her quarters, designed to teach mathematical concepts and spatial reasoning. But these look different. These look like they were just for fun. "I don't know how to play," Silra admitted quietly. Lucy looked up at her with confusion. "What do you mean? You just build stuff. Here, watch." She started connecting blocks together, creating a small tower. "See? You can make buildings or ships or animals or whatever you want. There's no wrong way." Silra slowly reached out and picked up a block. It was smooth and cool in her clawed hand. She tried to connect it to Lucy's tower, but her claws were bigger than Lucy's small fingers. The block slipped and fell. "That's okay," Lucy said cheerfully, adding it back to the tower. "Try another one." For the next few minutes, they built together. Lucy chattered constantly, asking questions that no one had ever dared to ask Silra before. "Can you really breathe fire? That must be so cool. I wish I could do something special like that. All I can do is wiggle my ears, see?" She demonstrated, making her ears move slightly. Silra felt a small laugh escape her throat. It sounded strange. She couldn't remember the last time she had laughed. "Why do your scales change colors?" Lucy asked, reaching out to gently touch Silra's arm. "Right now, they're kind of sparkly and gold. Before they were gray. Is it like a mood thing?" "Yes," Silra said, her voice stronger now. "Gray is sad. Gold is happy." "Then I like gold better," Lucy declared. "We should make sure you're gold as much as possible." Silra was reaching for another block when her claw accidentally caught the edge of the tower. The whole thing collapsed, blocks scattering across the floor. Silra froze, her scales immediately turning dark with shame. She had broken it. She had ruined the game. Lucy just laughed and started gathering the blocks. No problem. That just means we get to build something even better. Dad says mistakes are just chances to try again. This confused Silra more than anything else that had happened. Mistakes were bad. Everyone knew that. Mistakes from a dragon could be dangerous. But Lucy didn't seem worried at all. They rebuilt the tower, this time even taller. Other children on the deck kept glancing over at them, but none approached. Their parents stood in a tight cluster, watching nervously and whispering among themselves. "Do you want to play tomorrow too?" Lucy asked as she added the final block to their creation. "I have other games we could try. I have cards and drawing stuff, and my mom said she'd download some multiplayer holos for us." Silra's scales went bright gold again. "You want to play again?" Lucy looked at her like she had asked the strangest question in the universe. "Of course. We're friends now, aren't we?" Friends. Silra had heard the word before, seen other children use it casually, but she had never had it applied to her. She didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. The automated voice announced the end of recreation period. Children began leaving with their parents. Lucy packed up her blocks and stood, shouldering her backpack. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked. "Yes," Silra said. Then, gathering her courage, she added, "Thank you for playing with me." Lucy grinned. "Thank you for playing with me. You're really good at building once you get the hang of it. Tomorrow we should make a spaceship." She waved goodbye and skipped toward the exit where her mother waited. Silra watched her go, her scales cycling through every shade of gold and yellow. For the first time in 3 months, Silra wasn't dreading tomorrow. She was looking forward to it. She had a friend. 2 weeks changed everything. Lucy came to the observation deck every single day, always with something new to share. She taught Silra games that had no purpose except fun, a concept that felt foreign but wonderful. Today they were playing tag, though they had to modify the rules because Silra was naturally much faster than Lucy. Instead of running, Silra could only walk quickly, and Lucy got a 3-second head start. It was silly and made them both laugh until their sides hurt. "Got you." Lucy tapped Silra's arm and immediately sprinted away, giggling. Silra counted to 3 slowly, then started after her. Her scales were bright orange with excitement, a color she had never shown before meeting Lucy. She was learning that she had more colors than she had ever known, emotions she hadn't felt in the quiet loneliness of her first months on the station. They ran around the observation deck, dodging between seats and displays. Other children watched from a distance with their parents, but none joined in. Silra had gotten used to being watched. It didn't bother her as much now that she had Lucy. Silra was chasing Lucy around a holographic display when it happened. Lucy dodged left suddenly, and Silra tried to stop, but her momentum carried her forward. She got too excited, too caught up in the joy of the game, and something inside her sparked. A small burst of flame shot from her mouth, no bigger than a candle's flame, but enough. It caught the edge of Lucy's sleeve. Everything happened very fast after that. Lucy yelped in surprise. The station's fire suppression system activated, spraying foam from the ceiling. Alarms blared. Parents screamed. Station security came running. Silra stumbled backward, horror flooding through her. Her scales turned completely black, darker than they had ever been. She had hurt Lucy. She had hurt her only friend. Security officers surrounded them, pulling Lucy away. Medical personnel rushed over with scanners and treatment supplies. Silra could hear Lucy's mother's voice, high and worried, asking if her daughter was okay. The burn was minor, barely more than a red mark on Lucy's forearm, but Silra felt like her whole world was ending. She backed into a corner, making herself as small as possible. Other parents were shouting, demanding that the dragon child be removed, that she be kept away from their children. "I'm sorry," Silra whispered, but no one was listening to her. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Station officials arrived and started talking about safety protocols and separation policies. Silra heard words like dangerous and unpredictable and exactly what we feared would happen. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to go back in time and never agree to play. Never take the risk of hurting someone. Through the crowd, she heard Lucy's voice. I'm Fine. It was an accident. Let me through. But the adults kept talking over her, making decisions and plans. Silra curled up tighter in her corner. This was it. This was why no one played with dragons. She was exactly what everyone had warned about. Medical staff finished treating Lucy's arm. The burn was already healing, barely visible. But the damage was done. Everyone was staring at Silra like she was a monster. Then Lucy did something no one expected. She pushed through the crowd of adults and walked straight towards Silra's corner. Her mother called after her, but Lucy didn't stop. She sat down next to Silra, just like she had on that first day. Silra, Lucy's voice was soft. Are you okay? Silra couldn't look at her. I hurt you. Everyone was right. I'm dangerous. It was an accident, Lucy said firmly. Accidents happen when you're playing. That's normal. Not for dragons, Silra whispered. Dragons are supposed to have perfect control. I failed. Lucy was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made Silra finally look up. My dad burned me once when he was cooking. The pan was really hot, and I got too close. It hurt, but I didn't stop loving him. He didn't mean to do it. That's different, Silra said. How? Lucy asked. You didn't mean to do it either. We were playing and having fun, and something went wrong. That happens to everyone. Silra looked at Lucy's arm. The red mark was already fading. But what if next time it's worse? Lucy stood up and offered her hand to Silra. Then we'll be more careful. My mom's already talking about getting me some fireproof clothes for when we play. She's not mad at you, Silra. She's just worried because that's what moms do. The other parents want me kept away from their children, Silra said, not taking Lucy's hand yet. Well, those parents aren't in charge of me, Lucy said stubbornly. My mom and dad get to decide who I play with. And I choose you. Station officials were still arguing with Lucy's parents. Silra could hear them talking about liability and safety regulations. But Lucy's mother was saying something that made the officials pause. Human children get bumps and bruises all the time. They fall down, they scrape their knees, they accidentally hurt each other during play. That's part of being a child. We don't lock them away from each other because of the possibility of accidents. Lucy's father added, Our daughter has learned more about interspecies friendship in 2 weeks than months of educational programs could teach. We're willing to accept reasonable risks for that. The officials didn't look happy, but they couldn't force human parents to keep their child away from Silra. After more discussion, they agreed to allow the friendship to continue under supervision. Lucy finally pulled Silra to her feet. See? It's going to be okay. Silra's scales slowly shifted from black to a deep blue. Sadness mixed with relief. I don't want to hurt you again. Then we'll be careful, Lucy said. But we're not stopping being friends. Deal. Silra nodded slowly. Deal. The next day, Lucy showed up wearing a jacket made of fireproof material. She spun around to show it off, grinning. Mom got it from the engineering department. Now we can play without worrying. And they did. Word spread through the station faster than Silra expected. The human child who played with the dragon. The family that didn't fear accidents. Within days, other human families approached Lucy's parents with questions. Silra noticed the change during the 3rd week. A human boy about her age, maybe 8 or 9, approached the observation deck where she and Lucy were building a tower out of blocks. He stood at a distance for a while, just watching. Lucy noticed him too. She waved enthusiastically. I'm Lucy. This is Silra. Want to help us build? The boy looked nervous but curious. I'm Danny. Is it okay if I join? Of course, Lucy said, already making room. We're building a space station. You can work on the landing base section. Danny sat down carefully, keeping a respectful distance from Silra. She noticed how he watched her hands as she placed blocks, probably checking for any sign of fire or danger. But he stayed, and gradually he relaxed by the end of the recreation period, they had built the largest structure Silra had ever made. Danny high-fived Lucy as they finished, then hesitantly offered his hand to Silra too. She very carefully returned the gesture, making sure her claws didn't scratch him. The next day, Danny came back, and he brought his sister Lily, who was 6. Then more human children appeared over the following days. A boy named Robert. twin girls named Amy and Ashley, a quiet child named River who loved drawing and brought sketching tablets for everyone to use. Suddenly, Silra went from one friend to seven. Seven children who played with her, talked with her, included her in their games. It felt overwhelming and wonderful at the same time. They played games Silra had never heard of before. Hide and seek, which was challenging because Silra's scales changed color and gave away her hiding spots. Pretend games where they imagined themselves as space explorers or rescue teams. Drawing contests where everyone tried to sketch the same star formation in different styles. But the most amazing thing wasn't the human children accepting her. It was watching how their presence affected the other species' children on the station that a young Vrindali named Pip started appearing at the observation deck regularly. Vrindali were small, fragile beings who avoided anything remotely dangerous. Pip would sit far away and watch the human children play with Silra, his large eyes following their every move. One day, during a game of Space Explorers, Pip slowly moved closer. Lucy noticed immediately. "Hi," she called out. "Do you want to play with us?" Pip's parents, watching from across the deck, stiffened. But Pip had been watching for so long that his desire overcame his fear. He nodded slowly. Silra remembered her own loneliness, her own isolation. She made her voice as gentle as possible. "You could be on my team. I'll make sure you're safe." Pip joined their game, timid at first, but gradually becoming more confident. Silra was extra careful around him, moving slowly and keeping her fire instinct completely suppressed. By the end of the day, Pip was laughing along with the rest of them. His parents watched in amazement. Their child, who they had always protected from every possible harm, was playing with a dragon and smiling. Over the next few days, more non-human children began joining. A Centaurian girl named Tala, two Paulian siblings who spoke in rapid chirps, but communicated well enough through gestures and laughter. Even a young Caldrian, whose species was known for being extremely cautious and reserved. The observation deck transformed. What had once been Silra's lonely corner became a meeting place for children of all species. Human children served as bridges, welcoming everyone and helping them feel comfortable. Silra found herself at the center of it all, which felt strange and wonderful. She learned to adjust her play style for each species. Gentler with the fragile Vrindali, more energetic with the robust Centaurians, patient with the shy Palians. The adult observers changed too. Parents who had once pulled their children away now watched with cautious interest. They saw their children happy, genuinely happy, in ways that structured educational programs had never achieved. One evening, Pip's mother approached Silra's mother in the hallway. Silra, walking behind her mother, heard the conversation. "I wanted to thank your daughter," Pip's mother said quietly. "My son has never had friends before. We were always so worried about keeping him safe that we never considered what we were keeping him from." Silra's mother, usually so composed and diplomatic, had tears in her eyes. "I understand completely." The changes spread beyond just playtime. Teachers in the educational wing noticed that children who played together on the observation deck worked better together in lessons. They shared knowledge more freely, helped each other with difficult concepts, and showed genuine interest in learning about each other's species and cultures. Station officials began documenting what they called the harmony effect. Children learning cooperation not through programmed lessons but through simple play. Species barriers breaking down not through treaties but through games of tag and building blocks. One day, during a particularly active game of space rescue, Silra realized something. She was happy, genuinely, completely happy. Her scales shimmered with so many colors that they looked almost rainbow-like. Lucy noticed and grinned. "You look like a disco ball." "What's a disco ball?" Silra asked. "I'll show you a video later. It's a human thing, but it's sparkly and colorful and fun, just like you." As recreation period ended and children scattered back to their families, Silra watched them go. Human children walking alongside Vrindali. Centaurians chatting with Palians. Species that had coexisted on the station for years without truly connecting, now linked by something as simple as play. And it had all started because one human child had asked a question nobody else had thought to ask. you like to play? The day started like any other. Silra met her friends at the observation deck for their usual playtime before educational sessions. Today, they were playing an elaborate game that Lucy had invented, something about rescuing stranded explorers from an asteroid field. Silra was the rescue ship. Her scales turned silver to represent the hull. Lucy, Danny, and Pip were the stranded crew. The other children played various roles, from mission control to space pirates who had caused the original problem. They were deep into the game, laughing and running around the deck. When the alarm sounded, IT wasn't the normal end-of-recreation alarm. This was harsh, urgent, and accompanied by flashing red lights. The automated voice that followed made every parent on the deck freeze. Coolant leak detected in Maintenance Sector 7. Toxic gas release imminent. Initiating emergency lockdown protocols. Maintenance Sector 7 was right next to the observation deck. Silra could already hear the hiss of escaping gas through the ventilation systems. Panic erupted. Parents started grabbing their children, running toward the exits. But the emergency doors were already sliding closed, their lockdown protocols activated to contain the toxic gas. Some families made it through. Others didn't. Silra found herself trapped with about a dozen children and only 2 adults who had been too far from the exits. The toxic gas was starting to seep through the vents, a greenish mist that smelled bitter and wrong. The younger children started crying. Pip's small body trembled with fear. The 2 trapped adults, a Centaurian father and Apollonian mother, tried to keep everyone calm, but Silra could see the fear in their eyes. Lucy grabbed Silra's hand. "What do we do?" Silra's mind raced. Dragons were resistant to many toxins that would kill other species. Her biology teacher had explained it once how dragon lungs could filter almost anything. But these other children didn't have that protection. The gas would hurt them badly, maybe even kill them. The emergency announcement continued. Adulte répondez en route. Estimated arrival 45 seconds. Remain calm. 45 seconds. Silra looked at the greenish gas spreading across the floor, creeping toward the huddled group of children. It would reach them in less than half that time. She made a decision. "Everyone get to the far corner," Silra said, her voice steadier than she felt. Behind the display consoles. Now, Lucy immediately started herding the smaller children. Danny and the older kids helped, moving the group as far from the gas as possible. But it wouldn't be far enough. Silra positioned herself between the gas and the children. She took a deep breath, drawing air deep into her dragon lungs, and then she breathed out fire. Not a small spark like during the accident. Real fire, hot and controlled. She aimed it at the floor in front of her, creating a wall of heat between the toxic gas and her friends. The heat created an updraft, pushing the heavier toxic gas back and up toward the ceiling vents. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it bought time. The problem was that Silra had to keep breathing fire continuously, and even dragon lungs had limits. "Silra, stop!" Lucy called out. "You'll hurt yourself." But Silra didn't stop. She could feel the toxic gas trying to seep around her fire barrier. She spread her small wings, not yet large enough for flight, but wide enough to create a physical shield. Her scales hardened instinctively, forming protective plates 20 seconds. Her lungs burned from the continuous flame. The toxic gas was getting thicker, harder to push back. Behind her, she heard Danny organizing the other children. "Stay low. Cover your faces with your shirts. Breathe slowly." The human children weren't panicking. They trusted Silra to protect them, so they focused on helping the smaller children stay calm. 30 seconds. Silra's vision started to blur. Even dragon resistance had limits. She could feel the toxins seeping through her defenses, making her dizzy that a small Vrindali child, even younger than Pip, was frozen with fear near the edge of the safe zone. Too scared to move, too terrified to respond to the others calling for them. The emergency doors would seal completely in moments. If that child didn't reach safety, the gas would reach them first. Silra made her choice. She stopped breathing fire for just a moment, used her wings to launch herself forward in an awkward glide. Her species couldn't fully fly at her age, but she could manage short bursts. She grabbed the small Vrindali child with her claws, holding them as gently as possible against her chest. Her wings beat frantically as she pushed back toward the safe zone, toxic gas swirling around them. They crashed into the corner just as the emergency doors burst open and adult responders in protective suits rushed through. Emergency ventilation systems activated, sucking the toxic gas out of the room. Silra's scales had turned a sickly pale color. She was breathing hard, small wisps of smoke coming from her nostrils with each exhale. The Vrindali child in her arms was crying but unharmed. Medical teams swarmed in, checking each child. Miraculously, no one was seriously hurt. Minor exposure for a few, but nothing critical. The responders kept saying it was a miracle, that the children should have been overcome by the gas point. One of the medics examining Silra realized what had happened. The dragon child created a thermal barrier. She saved them. Silra barely heard the words. She was too tired, too dizzy from toxin exposure. Lucy was holding her hand, talking to her, but the words sounded far away. The Vrindali child's parents arrived, terrified and desperate. When they saw their child safe in Silra's arms, they broke down crying. The father gently took his child while the mother touched Silra's face with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saving my baby." Silra's scales flickered weakly. Purple, her mother had once told her. Purple was the dragon color of honor, of doing the right thing even when it was hard. A.S. medical staff carried her to the treatment center. Silra heard Lucy's voice calling after her. "You were so brave, Silra. You saved everyone." Silra closed her eyes and let the medics take care of her. She had protected her friends. That was all that mattered. The medical center released Silra after 2 days. The toxin exposure had affected her more than the doctors initially thought, but dragon physiology was resilient. She would be fine, they promised. Just needed rest. What Silra didn't expect was the crowd waiting outside the medical center when she left. Children from every species on the station filled the corridor. Human, Vrindali, Centaurian, Paulian, Caldrian, and others she had never even spoken to. They held drawings and small gifts, tokens of gratitude and friendship. Lucy pushed through the crowd first, nearly tackling Silra with a hug. "You're okay. I was so worried." The other children swarmed around her, all talking at once. Danny gave her a medal he had made from scrap metal and colored wire. Pip presented her with a traditional Vrindali blessing stone. The small Vrindali child she had saved clung to their parents' leg, but managed a shy wave. Station Commander Wells, a stern human woman Silra had only seen in official broadcasts, stepped forward. The crowd quieted. "Silra," the commander said, her voice formal but warm. "On behalf of Harmony 7 Station, I want to thank you for your courage and quick thinking. You saved 13 children and 2 adults from serious harm. Your actions exemplify the best of what we hope to achieve here: cooperation and care between all species." She pinned a small silver badge to Silra's shirt. Silra didn't know what it meant, but the way everyone clapped suggested it was important. But the real changes came in the days that followed. Parents who had once forbidden their children from approaching Silra now asked if their kids could play with her. The Centaurian mother who had pulled her child away months ago apologized with tears in her eyes. "I was wrong to judge you based on fear," she said. "You showed more wisdom and compassion than I did." The educational wing developed new programs focused on cooperative play between species. They asked Silra and Lucy to help demonstrate activities that worked for mixed groups. Teachers who had once been nervous around Silra now treated her like any other student. Other dragon families across the galaxy heard about what happened on Harmony 7. Silra's parents received messages from dragon communities on distant stations and planets, all asking the same questions. How did their daughter learn such compassion? How did she form friendships across species barriers? Silra's mother showed her one message from a dragon elder. "We have raised our children to be strong and disciplined, but perhaps we forgot to teach them to be kind. Your daughter remembered what we forgot." More dragon families started arriving at Harmony 7, hoping their children could experience what Silra had found. Within a month, 3 more young dragons joined the station's population. Silra watched them arrive, saw the loneliness in their eyes, recognized the way they stayed in corners. She knew exactly what to do. One afternoon, Silra found a young dragon boy sitting alone in the observation deck, watching the other children play. He looked about 5 in human years, his scales a dull gray that Silra remembered all too well. She sat down next to him, close enough to be friendly, but not overwhelming. The boy glanced at her nervously. "I'm not supposed to bother anyone." "You're not bothering me," Silra said gently. She gestured toward the group of children playing nearby. Lucy was teaching a mixed group some kind of earth game involving a ball and lots of running. "Do you like to play?" The boy looked confused. "I don't know. No one ever asked me before." Silra smiled, her scales turning warm gold. "I didn't know either until someone asked me. Come on, I'll teach you." She stood and offered her hand. The boy hesitated, then took it. They joined the group. Lucy immediately welcomed the new dragon with her usual enthusiasm. Within minutes, the boy was laughing, his scales flickering between different colors as he experienced emotions he had probably never felt before. Silra watched him play, remembering her own first days with Lucy. How one simple question had changed everything. The observation deck had become something special. Adults called it Harmony Commons now, a place where species barriers dissolved and children simply enjoyed being children. The station administration was documenting everything, planning to implement similar programs on other stations. But for Silra, it wasn't about programs or policies. It was about the friends around her. Lucy, who had seen a lonely child instead of a dangerous dragon. Danny and Pip, and all the others who had followed Lucy's example. The new dragon children who were learning that strength and kindness could exist together. That evening, as the station's artificial sun dimmed to simulate night, Silra and Lucy sat together at their favorite window. They watched the stars drift past in comfortable silence. "Thank you," Silra said quietly. Lucy looked at her curiously. "For what?" "For asking me to play. For being my friend. For seeing me instead of what everyone else saw." Lucy leaned against Silra's shoulder. "You know what my dad told me? He said the bravest thing anyone can do is treat others with kindness, even when everyone else chooses fear. I think you're the brave one, Silra. You could have stayed in your corner, stayed safe and alone. But you said yes when I asked you to play." Silra's scales shimmered with every color she had learned to feel. Gold for happiness, blue for contentment, purple for pride, orange for excitement, and woven through it all, a warm pink that her mother said was the color of love. Below them, in the commons, children of a dozen species played together. Dragon children and human children and Vrindali children and so many others, all mixed together in joyful chaos. One human child had asked one simple question, and it had changed an entire station. Do you like to play? For words that meant everything. Silra watched another dragon child join the group below, saw the hesitation and then the joy as they were welcomed. She smiled, her scales glowing bright. The answer would always be yes.